can't get it on the harmonium. Just sing it without the harmonium first.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
ఇలాంటిది పెట్టారు. అది ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చింది తెలుసా, ఇది పెడితే ఇంటర్ఫియరెన్స్ వచ్చింది, చాలా స్టాటిక్ వచ్చింది. సో నేనేం చేసి ఇది తీసి డైరెక్ట్గా ప్రభుజీ మైకే పెట్టాను. అప్పుడు స్టాటిక్ పోయింది. ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళు అక్కడ వైర్లెస్ మైక్ వాడుతున్నారు. ఈ వైర్లెస్ మైక్ అక్కడ ఏదో సౌండ్, వైర్లెస్ మైక్ వాడట్లేదా? వాడారు కదా నేను ప్రభుజీ, వైర్లెస్ మైక్ వాడారు. దాని సెటప్ కూడా అక్కడే ఉంది. దానివల్ల ఇంటర్ఫేస్ స్టాటిక్ వచ్చింది, వీడియోలో స్టాటిక్ వచ్చింది. బయట మామూలుగా ఉంది, బట్ వీడియోలోకి స్టాటిక్ వచ్చింది. ఎందుకంటే రిసీవర్ మైక్లోకి వెళ్తుంది, వీడియోకి లేక. సో నేనేం చేసి ఇక్కడ తీసేసి ప్రభుజీ మైక్ పెట్టా అటాచ్ చేశాను. సో అది డైరెక్ట్గా ప్రభుజీ వాయిస్ కాబట్టి ఇంటర్ఫేరెన్స్. సో ఇక్కడ ట్రై చేస్తున్నా.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare,
But it is showing the
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. It's audible? Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. No problem. The room is small. I can speak if the thing is not. No,
Hare Krishna.
Her volume was by default loud.
But yeah, she was not singing into this.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it was coming. I can coming. Yeah.
Even now it's coming. Like if I no. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare.
There's an illusion that it is coming. I'm also feeling that it is coming.
Correct. Huh? Hare Krishna.
Shri Chaitanya Manavishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam.
सिन्धुमेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. So first of all, I would like to thank the kids who did such a wonderful kirtan. The kirtan team has just gone outside. Hare Krishna. So today I got to know that the topic is 18.65. Jagannath Prabhu, you suggested? Yeah. I got to know at 7:07.
So today, yesterday.
Yeah, but it was not explicitly so. I got to know later, but it's all right. One of the very famous verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is from the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, chapter entitled The Perfection of Renunciation, text number 65. मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामवेश्यसि सत्यं ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोऽसि मे। Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Purport. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of Him and act for Him. One should not become an official mediator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This is the most confidential part of knowledge. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjun because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows this path of Arjun can become a dear friend of Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjun. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form, with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on the original form of Godhead Krishna. One should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayan, Ram, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjun. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is disclosed to Arjun because Arjun is the most dear friend of Krishna's. Hare Krishna. So if there was something incomplete of yesterday's discussion and anyone has some questions, because I see all of you are the same group of people, we can discuss further. By the way, because of, what was your name? What's your name? Srinivas Prabhu. So Srinivas Prabhu raised a beautiful point that Yudhishthir was not a bad person. Indeed, he was not a bad person. But exactly, we also went to the whole shlokas and also there are about 6 shlokas where Yudhishthir specifically describing the qualities of Draupadi, he puts him at stake. Just continuing the discussion. However, that part is true that Yudhishthir never wanted to participate in the gambling match. So that was also which we discussed. As an obligatory thing, he did participate and he was forced to put those things. So not that he willfully did that. So your point is well taken, and that was also concluded yesterday. That in that spirit. So I'm just...
One more point I need to add.
Yeah.
Vedavyasji actually, before Pandavas going to that gamble match, right? Actually, Vedavyasji visits Yudhishthira. At that time, he forecast the entire thing, the war and the exile, everything he forecast, and he says like whatever happens, you tolerate. And I like that he actually guides Dharma Yudhishthira. Then, and as a Kshatriya, he has to oblige to whatever invite came from other kingdoms. In such a, in that way, actually he did not did any wrong or anything. But during that match, right, gambling match, actually, one thing is he forgets Krishna. That time, maybe that's God's plan or something. Because that has to happen, right? Because the close relatives, they are so very bad, and that entire Kurukshetra has to happen. It's already Krishna's, he has planned everything. These are the very pious people, so he has to make these people as the main center of entire thing, so that these people get all these miseries or anything, right? So he used these Pandavas just to make us know everything. Like if any, even in bad situations or anything, how they have to deal. Always, even Yudhishthira always thinks of Krishna mostly. Only during that gambling match he actually forgets, but Draupadi remembers Krishna. He did not bet Draupadi that time. What happens is he becomes servant of Shakuni. He in that bet match, right? He asked, if you don't have anything, then you have to become servant of this Duryodhan and Shakuni and everything. He becomes servant. After that, Shakuni realizes like, oh God, why I did a mistake. Instead of making him before servant, right? I need to ask Draupadi. Now he did not actually, by his consciousness, he did not bet Draupadi, because he is already a servant. He did not have nothing to do. Obeys the master. Yudhishthira is such a, pious and rule. He goes by the. That's the
rule book.
Yeah. That's the reason actually it happens like that.
So in the Mahabharata, which is written by our acharyas and specifically Ved Vyas, so there are chapters where Vaishampayana Vyas, basically, they have a discussion with Yudhishthira, because when the invitation of gambling match takes place, he is first of all thinking that we should not participate, and gambling destroys so many things, and then there is Vidur who intervenes at two different instances and all of that. And despite knowing the harmful effects, he obliges himself. Whatever is the internal pastime, that we are not concerned, otherwise there is no discussion at all, but then everything is just a game of Lord, right?
Yeah.
So the point of dharma is that we have to take it in the context of that person. If we think that, Arjun is actually just playing a role, we should not take his depression seriously, then there is no point of discussion, Gita. Correct? So this thing, Shakuni actually tells that there is one more thing by which you can retain or you can gain back everything you have lost. If you put Draupadi. That was the argument. And then he puts Draupadi at stake, glorifying her qualities. So that comes in 6 verses. You should go through that in the Dyuta Parva, chapter number 65, text 33 to 39. So that is there. Yeah. So however, this whole discussion it was not like he was craving to participate in the match. That point we also discussed in the course of our lecture also. I'm just helping you reconcile both these situations. That the discussion is not that here Kunti is evil. Yesterday, that not Kunti is like a hypocrite. Not they are bad. But it's like no matter how good we try, sometimes being engaged in pastimes or the human existence, they are representing our lives. So in our human existence, no matter how we try, because we are not absolutely perfect, there will be some corners where we will get stuck so badly. Otherwise, then Bhishma should not have been in the bed of arrows also, right? Because he is already a Mahajan.
Yeah.
Right? So that's it, in that context. Or else Sita, who is Mahalakshmi herself, why she has to go reactions. So of course these are pastimes, but that's what we learn, that if we do these mistakes, even if we are great, it's possible we commit. So good, you have some reading. I encourage you to pursue that things very nicely.
Sure. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. So this verse, continuing somewhat in the spirit of yesterday's discussion, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame veshyasi satyam te pratijani priyosime. Whenever we are trying to understand any aspect of the scripture, it is important to understand from where this whole discussion begins. That helps to shape up the conclusion itself. To help you understand this particular context of 18th chapter and the verses here, I'll give some example again from the Mahabharata. That whenever we hear the prayers of, let's say, Gajendra Moksha, or let's say Kunti, prayers of Queen Kunti, or let's say Bhishma Deva's passing away of Bhishma Deva, and he also prays to the Lord. When we hear these prayers are not just prayers which they are speaking out of some grammatical understanding or because they are poets and sat near the river and beautiful mountains and they thought of a romanticizing of Krishna in some way and they wrote. It is coming out of the deep purushartha which they have gone through life, their efforts which they have done to be dharmically right on the path, and then coming to a point where they can submit their entire life as an offering to Krishna during the final moments. So therefore certain prayers spoken by certain people make a lot of difference if we understand the context. For example, when we hear these verses, one can just sentimentally think about this verse that Krishna is simply trying to say, just think of me, become my devotee. And and obviously it is there what it means literally. But when you put the context of Arjun and when you see that whom Krishna is telling these things and why he is telling these things, does Krishna tell all these things to gopis? Have you read the chapter of Gopi leaving their homes and meeting Krishna in the forest? The Rasa Panchadhyayi, the first chapter you should read. When gopis hearing Krishna's flute, they come to Krishna and then they say that, and then Krishna says, oh my God, you all have come in the midnight, animals would have killed you, and you are women from civilized homes, good families, you have husbands and children, it does not suit your character. Go back home, do your duties nicely. You cannot achieve me just by mere proximity and wanting to physically see me. If you have the Bhagavatam 10th canto, can you give me that? It's a very interesting verse. किसी के पास है इधर? Oh, both the hosts are not there.
The phone है
हाँ?
phone में निकल.
हाँ चलेगा. 10th canto chapter I think.
31.
31 it is. 31. That's a very interesting thing which almost contradicts this particular verse. And that discussion is between Krishna and his most dear devotees. 21 or 31 I think.
The gopis glorifying the Krishna's fruit.
No.
They meet him in the forest.
I think 31. Let me see.
So, anyways, meanwhile you find out it's very interesting. Arjun is a pure devotee. Gopis are also pure devotees. Correct?
Songs of separation will.
Sure.
I think then 30.
Next chapter.
Which chapter, Prabhu?
20.
I think maybe the previous chapter only, because they comes and then Krishna leaves and then they have this.
No.
No?
He just says that why are you here? Anyways, try to find out. It should be 31 or something. 30 or 31. Chalo. Good, it just spontaneously came in my mind. So Krishna here, see, this is very interesting. Both of them they are pure devotees. To one person, Krishna is saying, forget everything else. Essentially, one verse before the 18.65, the verse number 64 says, Sarva guhyatamam bhuyah shrudu me param vachah. I am going to tell you the most confidential secret. Sarva guhyatamam. Amongst all the secrets, the most confidential message I am going to give you now. And because Did you find that verse?
Yeah. Oh, verse, no, I didn't. The chapter I know in this, the chapter. No, they come here.
Yes, this. Okay, I'll read this verse also. So here he's saying the most secret of all information is what I'm going to just tell you now. And I'm telling you because that is good for you. Vakshami te hitam. And then he says this verse, Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. In a very simplistic way, it simply means mat mana means put your mind in me. Bhava mad bhakta, how do you become actually a devotee? In a simplistic way. Once your mind is absorbed in Krishna, or once your mind is absorbed in anyone whom you love, you automatically engage your senses in that service of that person or that object which you are absorbed, isn't it? So your mind automatically, once your mind is thinking, well, I want to do this kind of a celebration, then your eyes, your nose, your hands, your legs, everything starts working to fulfill that objective. So the first part is man mana, put me in your mind. Bhava mad bhakta, become my devotee, means essentially engaging now all your senses, because mind is absorbed in me, naturally you can't do. Now once that is engaged, you brought all the ingredients and other things to worship or to begin in that process. Then naturally the third part comes. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji. Yaja means to worship. Now that you have also engaged with the external senses to participate in devotional service to me, so then you worship me. So this worship, of course, is not limited to the daily deity worship we do. It's the way, it's like making, as Prabhupada said, making Krishna part of our life in such a way that without any extra effort or endeavor, we naturally remember him. Not in an artificial sense. Like, for example, if our work, the nature of our work and our own participation in our home and household duties is in such a manner that we feel that it is conflicting with Krishna consciousness, then we will see these two things as separate. Essentially, this means that Krishna has to become so much in part of your life that you don't realize that anything you are doing is different than worship of Krishna. This is what it means. Because the moment you separate these two things, the moment you disintegrate it, that okay, this is my material life and this is my spiritual life, then how will you follow this thing? That Krishna is, your life is designed in such a way that throughout, he should arrange his life in such a way that throughout 24 hours, he cannot but think of Krishna. How is that possible?
Yeah.
And if this is only for those pure devotees, kind of who have nothing else to do but to think of Krishna, then this verse would not have been spoken to Arjun. Because Arjun specifically does not represent such a kind of a person who is like a renowned sadhu or something. Correct? Now, because Arjun is now in the battlefield about to execute a war, therefore this verse has a meaning which is something over and above what appears to us in the literal sense. Because how will Krishna, let's say 18 days the war took place, how is Arjun going to think of Krishna 24 hours a day in the next 18 days? Correct?
Being in the battlefield.
Yeah, being in the battlefield. And battlefield is not something like even like a home. Home may you have at least 2 hours of sadhana and do something. It's not possible. That's an extremely serious kind of a situation where your life is at stake. And because you are a ruler, you have an additional responsibility to see that nobody in your camp gets hurt. Correct? Yeah, it's okay. You want it?
No, I was taking notes.
So that means there is something else. Interestingly, these kind of verses have not come elsewhere directly spoken by Krishna.
Yeah.
They have been spoken by some of Krishna's devotees. One should constantly meditate. Narad Muni says this often. Uddhav will say, Maitreya will say, everybody will say, don't waste your time in any single thing in this world. Even if you fail in your material duties, then just focus on that. Means if you have that much capacity to bear the loss of your material position, but only if you can, and you can happily engage, then it is okay. Otherwise, it's not recommended. So, but Krishna saying this verse directly is slightly different than what Krishna is saying to another set of pure devotees whom he loves so much, without any doubt, according to the scriptures. Like we are not saying scriptures are saying gopis are the dearmost, and Krishna is also saying gopis are the dearmost. Yesterday I was telling one devotee that there is not a single character who is there in the Mahabharata literature or even in the Ramayana literatures except for 3-4, like maybe Krishna himself or the gopis who did not visit the Himalayas. They all went to the Himalayas. Most of these pure devotees, they all went to the Himalayas. They learned this knowledge. They went to the Himalayas, did tapasya, and then when they wanted the higher version of understanding, now what next? Then Krishna told like Uddhav, okay, just go and visit gopis. Because now that matter of love or absorption is not something which can be taught. It can only be experienced. For example, when you meet a person who loves something so much, you also get tainted or infected, influenced by that love. Some things just cannot be conveyed. Matters of love and devotion are not easy to be understood by knowledge. Anartha nivritti is easy to be understood relatively. Dharma, what is duty? That is also relatively easy. It's not so easy, but it's easy that way. But to understand pure love of God, it's extremely difficult. And therefore, after many of these great devotees succeed in various aspects, Krishna says, okay, just might as well ek bar visit the gopis. And many of these rishis and great people, when they met the gopis, they realized that these little beautiful girls, they know no shlokas. They have no understanding of what is supreme truth and what is tattva and siddhanta, these words. But their madness for the Lord is at a total different level. And then they realize that actually this is why Krishna just sent us here. To that set of devotees, Krishna is saying when the gopis come listening to his flute in the middle of the night. First he says, you people from respectable families, why have you come here? It does not suit women of great character and great household and heritage, culture, all this pratishtha coming and doing all these things. So he says, Shravanat Darshanat Dhyanat Mai Bhavo Anu Kirtanat Na Tatha Sannikarshena Pratiyata Tato Grihan. Transcendental love for me arises by Shravanat, by hearing, Darshanat, okay, by having darshan. Here the word darshan specifically does not refer to seeing only by the eyes. Technically, in our shastras, when the word darshan comes, this word comes in the sense of understanding. Means when you see, but you really don't understand, then what is the point of seeing? So therefore we have Shata Darshan. You have heard these 6 systems of Vedic philosophy. Prabhupada speaks in the introduction of Bhagavatam and many other places. Shata Darshan. So these are the darshans that the Lord can be understood through 6 different perspectives which have a unique way of seeing. Now somebody can understand how can all ways be unique. I'll just give you some example. By the mercy of Prabhupada and ISKCON Satsang programs, we travel to so many people's homes. I have eaten almost 25-30 different kind of sambars. So unique. Gujaratis have a different way of making potato sabji. Andhra devotees have totally different. Even the idlis are made differently. They taste different, the whole thing, and after going in the stomach, the feeling is also slightly different.
Different spicy levels of
Yeah, everything. 6 totally unique ways of doing things. Correct? This is just a simple example. So similarly, there are 6 different ways of approaching the truth. And of having those who understand that, that is what is called darshan. Otherwise, simply seeing the Lord in a ritualistic manner in a tirtha sthan does not technically qualify as darshan. हम लोग ऐसे बोलते हैं ना, we say, हाँ, we had nice darshan. You really think you had nice darshan? It should change your life then. But our life remains as it is, even after having darshan every day. Correct? So then technically that darshan is not happening. So one has to understand these things in that way. So Krishna is saying that you have come here in the middle of the night, it makes no sense. Hearing about me, darshanat means viewing my form in the sense of an understanding, let's say as a deity or in the temple. Prabhupada says seeing the form in the temple. Mahi bhavo anukirtanat, try to absorb me in the consciousness of how I have created this universe. Trying to understand means aligning our consciousness to the consciousness of the Lord, or let's say dharma or prakriti, how it aligns. Dhyanat, keep me in your heart. By doing this, you can get more progress. Na tatha sannikarshana. Not simply by proximity you are going to get all this progress. Pratiyata tato griha. So therefore, take this phone and write notes. Go back to your homes. Don't you see a total difference in how Krishna is speaking the same thing in different way to different set of people? After doing this, the gopis go back to resume their duties and they live their lives in separation, but their absorption for Krishna increases. Same thing with Arjun. After doing all of this, Krishna did not say that now, he does not even say now go back and do your duty to fight. After hearing these verses, Arjun realizes, yes, now I should fight. So that means the understanding of Arjun is slightly different than how we would probably understand. We would probably understand that, okay, my life has so much challenges, my spouse is not listening to me, my family members are no longer reciprocating properly. Now I will forget everything and I will just remember Krishna. That's the natural thinking when we are getting frustrated. Everybody tries to take shelter of Krishna. That, my dear Lord, Bhagavatam says truly, you also say truly, it is true. There is no point investing our lives and energies in these things. But then, even at that time, our heart is not fully taking shelter of Krishna. Correct? Still we are thinking that, oh, whatever I have heard is so true, whatever is it's so true, but in the heart is saying that now I have to set that right. Not that we have given it up. And the moment those things fall in place, again we are happy. Correct? Relieved. Then we build a false sense of conception that this is what is a devotee or bhavamad bhakto. Somehow or the other, just keep the name of Krishna in the center of our lives and keep speaking. But then we cannot align our consciousness. So one of the most important word here is mana. It's very difficult. Bhavamad bhakto is a sense of starting reciprocation, and Yaji is now doing the process of it. But to fix the mind on Krishna, very, very difficult. Because it is the nature of the living entity to be constantly absorbed. It has been constantly absorbed in its own self since time immemorial. We have no conception that there could be a sense of creation which is totally unique to our own idea. In the Bhagavatam somewhere, I think in the discussion of Narad Muni and Narad is cursed by Daksha Prajapati, right? Narad is cursed, no?
Never stays one place.
They can stay
Yeah,
in one place.
yeah. So he's cursed. So because he's preaching to Prajapati's 10,000 sons. So somewhere in that chapter, Narad Muni is discussing that how while you are moving here, you are moving not exactly in different places, you are moving in the mental creations of so many people around us. Think about this. What is this place prosper? It's a mental creation of somebody, right? Somebody thought that this is how we should create the society. This is how the lake will give us good aesthetic. This will make the sales. This will make a happy home. This will give convenience. So it's a mental creation of what gives comfort, what gives luxury, what gives value, what gives a sense of worth. So one person thought this way. Some other person will think that let us bring a sense of worth by putting a beautiful pub. Someone thinks let us put it up a restaurant. And now, so then the mayor will think that now this is a complete prosperous city. So essentially this city is the creation of so many people's mindset. So when we are moving in the city, essentially we are moving in the minds of so many different people. How philosophy puts things in perspective, right? Now because we are moving in minds of different people, we also have a tendency to create our world within our own mind. We don't even understand that so many aspects which we design is just purely our own dream. It's not a reality at all. So this effort to do that, let me think on how Krishna thinks or how Dharma thinks, how the Lord thinks, is an exercise which everybody has to do. For Arjun to understand this verse, which could have been spoken in the first chapter or the second chapter, it took so many chapters. This is like 65. I think it ends at 78 or something. 78, right? So 13. 700 minus 13. How many verses?
687.
687. This is 687th point after the essential discussion of Bhagavad Gita. If we remove the 2.14, then minus about 100 verses. So 787, something like that. 587. So for Arjun to understand what is Man Mana, he had to understand what is Karma Yoga, what is Dhyan Yoga, what is all that. Then he can now understand what is Man Mana. So this is very, very essential and very, very important. That we don't take these kind of verses very ritualistically. Otherwise, it creates a sense of burden in the consciousness. When we artificially try to follow these 3 steps, Man Mana, okay, now I'll do mind the mind and I will follow. That many of us have been already doing, right? Many of you are already doing, right? If that is the understanding, then you are already doing that. But then, over a period of time, we also do feel that why are we doing? This is not reaping any fruits. That also comes. Yeah. So that does not mean that this verse is at fault. That means our understanding or application of the verse is not is somewhere not correct. Otherwise, these verses like Prati Jane Satyam Te, this is Satyam. This is the absolute perfect truth. When Krishna is saying this is Satya, means can you imagine what a declaration? And Prati Jane means it's a declaration, like the declaration of independence. It's something like that. Declaration to someone who is dear that this is the ultimate truth. Essentially, it simply means that one should very carefully design one's life, which Prabhupada is saying, that we cannot forget Krishna. Now, how can that be done? If one's life is not, if one has designed one's life in such a way that he is crafting opinions. Yesterday we were discussing this thing that, I don't know whether I was discussing yesterday. Oh yes, we were discussing that there are two kinds of pleasure. One which is derived directly by the contact of senses and sense object, and one is at the level of mind. So many things which are coming at the level of mind are created by somebody else. Now if so many desires which are there in us, in our mind, if it is created by somebody else, then why don't we give the authority to Krishna to create that? Isn't it? Having put our faith in so many people's designs and creations and ideas, we have also risked our life accordingly, right? How many of you have had a guarantee on every single step which you have taken in life? Let's say when you join a new job, you only hope that it will be fine, right? You have no guarantee. Oh, I got a nice interview, went nice, and I hope everything goes well. Nobody has this guarantee it will definitely go well. It never happens. All of you, when you got married, did you know that everything is going to go perfectly fine? We only hope. And devotees, they ask us, we ask other to pray for us that, Prabhu, please pray, everything goes well. So even after so many years, after having established our houses and securities and additional incomes and all, still we only hope. Still there is no guarantee. So if you think that there is a large component of our consciousness which is invested in heavy risk on somebody else's proposition, isn't it? Ideas which are creation of somebody else's mind. Like I want to migrate to United States. It's creation of whose mind? We were not born of it. If you're in Middle East, this thought will never come. Why?
Already rich.
Huh?
They have money, they are already rich, they are already well established.
No, they don't have immigration policy. So that thought will not cross. And what will you do migrating to Saudi Arabia? Right?
Get my hands cut.
Or Kuwait, or Iran, or Iraq. Maybe Dubai is fine. How many of you think to migrate to Ghana, Burkina Faso, Syria, Ethiopia, Somalia? Very natural environment. Burundi. I have been to those places. It's very natural environment. We don't think. Because somebody else crafted this idea that immigration here ensures great quality and security of life. Even those people who have not seen this place, they are craving for it. And those who have not experienced, right? So it's idea crafted by someone.
So that means our intelligence is not doing it properly though.
No, whether proper or not, that is a second question. But the idea is crafted by someone else.
Yeah.
Now, how to approach any idea which is crafted by anybody else? That will come next. Basically, we have a tendency to believe things which are beyond sensory perceptions. And this facility is only for human beings, technically. Some people use this ability nicely, some people cannot use this ability nicely. We have a tendency to follow reviews and all of that, and we have a tendency to believe. Humanity runs on that principle, to believe. We don't run on the principle of doubt. We don't run. Doubting is a very rich and refined principle, which most people cannot execute. We are scared to doubt, and we don't want to doubt, and that's why we immediately go to reviews, right? 6666. Oh, so many reviews go. We believe because it's a very difficult exercise to raise a doubt and then resolve the conflict. So to make a shortcut, we follow this. That's how our minds are designed. So basic simple understanding is, if our mind has an ability to live in other people's constructs and put so much faith, despite our faith being shattered so many times, we still are resilient. Why? Because when my faith is shattered in any particular system, I see that there are 100 others who are struggling and I still continue. And I know that everybody has said, yeah, this is like this only, nothing is going to change, but we still continue, right? So then why not we put that faith in Krishna? This is why Krishna says, Yam Satyam. Otherwise, his opinion, he could also say, okay, I am also claiming one opinion, which many others are claiming many other opinions. But he says, Satyam, that this is really true. This is Satya. And accept this as a declaration itself. When you say that something as a declaration means they have resolved so precisely and perfectly that there is no better way or method to conduct one's life than to design your mind and your consciousness that instead of being absorbed in the silly creations of others, get absorbed in my idea of how life should be conducted. That's the basic idea of what it means, man mana. Once that is done, then comes bhava mad bhakta and madhyaji. If man mana is not happening, then mad bhakta and madhyaji is just like an artificial presence in some particular thing. Like for example, some of you may be living here, but you may not be feeling the love for the country. Possible. Many times people do feel like that. Or some may be living in India and they are not feeling love for that country. So it is possible. So they are doing bhava mad bhakta and madhyaji, means they are paying taxes, that is being bhakta of that country. Correct? From a state perspective. Madhyaji means then do the needful, follow rule regulations, help people in the society, all that. But you can do all of that even without man mana. Correct? It is easy to engage the senses and also the external part. Very difficult to fix your mind and heart and consciousness. When Arjuna understands these things, he immediately understands what Krishna is trying to say. And Arjun's consciousness is no longer now separate. Please now understand this part which we are going to discuss further. Before, Arjun is thinking that my consciousness is something and my idea is a very serious idea and it has lot of concerns about dharma, family, country, value systems, good, bad, gurus, this, that. So he has a whole sense of conception of idea. And he's thinking this is so different from idea of what Krishna has. So now there are two ideas. And the whole Gita begins with Arjun trying to defend his idea and push his idea more stronger than Krishna's idea, correct? Because after blowing the conch, he realized that this is just not working. So suddenly, till that time Krishna's idea was there. See, this is an extremely important thing to understand. Pandavas are suffering in their life. Krishna is on the project of establishing dharma. And Pandavas are on the project of reclaiming their kingdom, their rightful whatever they are. Somehow these two ideas came together. Correct? Because they were rightful people and they were on the path of dharma, and Krishna also had to establish dharma. But these two were not on the same page, but they came together. I hope you understand this. So there are two different ideas. Pandavas are not living their life to establish dharma. And Krishna is not at all living the life that I want to give kingdom to Pandavas. The goal of Krishna is to establish dharma. That's it. If Arjun was not on the side of dharma, then he would have had the same fate as Duryodhana probably. Correct? So Krishna is not living for the Pandavas as such, and Pandavas are not actually concerned with dharma per se, like establishing dharma. They are concerned with their own, because establishing the dharma in the world is not their problem. Being human being, they are just small people. So these two ideas came together, and then came the formation of Yuddha. The moment the Yuddha formation came, these two ideas although seemingly same, in the same paksha, same position against the Kauravas, Arjun realized that no, my perception of war and fight is totally different than Krishna's perception of war and fight. Correct? Suddenly these two ideas became separate. So two templates of understanding were always there. They merged at some time and then suddenly they separated. And that's where the Gita came. That, oh. So Gita did not come for Arjun so that Arjun should start the war. That's not the actual purpose of Gita. Of course, from Arjuna's perspective, that was the purpose of Gita. But Gita's purpose was specifically that Arjun should understand the template in which Krishna operates. That's why Prabhupada used this word, Krishna consciousness. Very many places he uses, right? He said, what Krishna people say, but without the consciousness, how does Krishna operate? So now the Gita is spoken so that Arjun should now give up his psychological template, replace it with the template of dharma, and then fight. I hope this is very clear. Once this is clear, Arjun then understands. Oh, now the fight becomes easy. Means it's still difficult, but it's easy. So sometimes when we say this principle of Dvaita and Advaita, this is what it is. Advaita is this principle. That unification of consciousness. Aligning ourselves one in the spirit of God is what is basically the principle of Advaita. Or Eka Buddhi. Yeah. So instead of having your intelligence which is going in different templates, Krishna says, hey, dharma. Wait, this universe and dharma, this is operating according to my template. If you create another template which is not part of this, it will not work. It's so simple. So then, our entire journey of life and our entire struggles are just to fix our templates. Nothing else. Whatever we call as pap is something which is generated out of template which is not in line with the template of dharma. It's like just like if your office is operating on a certain software, say Python, and you are creating a code which is C++ based, it's just not going to work in a way. Correct? Something like that. So it's like you have to, I'm assuming that this analogy fits, but you can come out with a better analogy. But something like that. That this is not the template in which we can operate. You can produce the same result. Krishna wants to establish dharma, and that is established by killing Duryodhan and the Kaurava army. And Arjun can also kill them. But so output is same. But that does not mean that template is same. The template could be different. So Krishna could have actually tempted Arjun by actually just striking on Arjun's weakness. Means when you know that this guy is, suppose he's greedy for wealth and power and position, and I want to anyways kill these fellows, so I will use Arjun to kill. That could have been done, right? But Krishna does not do that. The whole struggle is because it's the restructuring of consciousness. And once that is achieved, what happens to Arjun? Arjun still achieves what he wanted. He gets the result. He gets the result without the psychological burden of what the war was all about. You know, the killing of your own family members and so on, whatever happened. So earlier, the very significant verse also Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavad Gita earlier is Mamakaha. Right? Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva kim akurvata Sanjaya, where Dhritarashtra is thinking. Later, Arjun also says something to that effect. He does not use this word Mamakaha, but he says, my superiors, my dear family members. If the people were all strangers to Arjun, that would have been an easy war, right? Because he had already fought so many wars. What is there for him to kill? He's an expert killer anyways. The problem was When he fought the earlier wars, he thought that they are different
I'm different.
and I am different. In this war, he is seeing the oneness. These are all mine. So the definition of oneness comes. So Krishna tries to shift that definition, that when you are thinking of oneness in your perspective, think of oneness in my perspective. All of you are already one in that way. You are all my people. Not that one section is somebody else's people and somebody, hey, you are not God. You have no right to say my, I and mine. Because you actually you don't even own your own body. You have no control over it. So how much right, I'm not saying that we do not have any rights. We do have some rights, but it has to be in proportion. Like in your own house, if you say, like some of you, when you work in your office, you may say my desk, my table, and you may tell to your fellow members, don't mess around my table or my desk. But if to your boss, if you say don't come to my table, then he'll say, hey, wait. This whole department is mine. So let your minus be in proportion. Don't just build it larger out of proportion, right? And if the manager starts saying like that, then the company people will say, bhai, it is my company. Correct? So it is that perspective. You have your space for your freedom and your execution, but it has to be in proportion. One who understands this proportion, he becomes successful in the company. Let's say, for example. So in that sense, these things come. Suddenly, Arjun realizes the correct understanding of what is I and mine, and that is why then he says, Nashto moho smritir labdva. Having anticipated that now Arjun, having understood all these perspectives, he can understand this verse now. Therefore Krishna speaks like this. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. This is the ultimate truth. First of all, it's so difficult to find in the Vedic literature amongst finding the truth. And then we come to this particular point that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in this particular form. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also in this verse, he speaks that here Krishna is encouraging Arjun to connect with him, not simply at the level of consciousness, but also take it further to personify that consciousness. So earlier Krishna was saying, or when he speaks to the gopis, just being with me physically doesn't mean anything, it has to be consciousness, because he's saying that gopis have too much dependence on me in person and they do not have enough strength. Means they have so much love in separation that they feel that we won't be able to survive without him. So he's saying now put some strength in your consciousness. Not that they don't have consciousness, but he wants their consciousness not to be weak in separation but strong. So he says, try to see me in your duties also. And in Arjun, he has built that consciousness now. And he says, now try to put me also as in person, which is also essential. Otherwise, there can be a tendency of many speakers, they speak that here it is not Krishna, it is the Tattva within Krishna, it is just the energy, and they try to separate Krishna and Krishnaness, let's say. Like I think we have discussed earlier. Water and waterness. The importance of water is only in the principle of its properties. If water does not have the property to quench thirst, then there is no meaning. So if you remove waterness, water has no meaning. But then when you bring water and say, actually water is not important, it is waterness only which is important, then you are also insulting the physical water. Yeah. Water and waterness are together, but they are two distinct features, correct? Yeah. But they are together. So we have to accept both of them. So that's why this personification of this idea that Bhava Mad Bhakto Mad Yaji Mam Namaskuru, the extra emphasis on this word of me, man mana, Bhava Mad Bhakto Mad Yaji Mam Namaskuru, which comes. Prabhupada says here that one should focus on the original form of Krishna here, the Tribhanga Swarup and all. So that's part of this purport. In another purport, I don't want, there is not much to elaborate on this, but there is another purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam. where Krishna says where Prabhupada himself is writing in the purport. This is when Prahlad Maharaj sees Narsimhadev. So that a devotee has the natural right. When a devotee does sadhana and worships, the Lord reveals in a particular form suited to that devotee. So we may be actually chanting, desiring to see or worship only a particular form, but as we progress, the Lord may choose in a different way. So in that purport, Prabhupada explains the same concept in a slightly different way. So he also does not differentiate these things that way. That the Lord has multi forms as Vishnu, Narayan, Varaha, but a devotee should concentrate their mind only on the form of the present before Arjun. That's what he writes. Other places in the purports himself, he also writes this. So I sometimes say, like Prahlad Maharaj, before Narsimhadev appeared, there was no idea of Narsimhadev, right? So Prahlad Maharaj was chanting what? Narayan. And then the Lord appeared as Narsimhadev. Nobody recognized this, that he is God. People were confused. They just knew that he killed Hiranyakashipu exactly easy, purely Vishnu, nobody knew. Lakshmi also got confused. Yeah, I have never seen him like that, I don't want to go. Correct? If you know those stories. So it was only Prahlad who authenticated. So this is what it's explained. Even when Krishna speaks to Uddhav, Krishna speaks always that. At the time of perfection, Krishna may want to reveal to you in a particular form, and when he reveals, you will get attracted to that form. Because that has been for you specifically. So just like, let's say those of you are initiated by some guru, and or Maharaj may have, or we hear so many Prabhupada disciples speaking about Prabhupada stories. But each one of them are more interested that when he came and I offered him some sweets, they remember that the most. They don't remember other big things which Prabhupada did. Why is that?
Because there is a personal.
There's a personal thing. So when the Lord comes in a person with a devotee, then that form and that leela will become very, very important. Like for example with Hanuman. Hanuman also was there in the battlefield. Correct? As the flag. In the form of a flag. After the Kurukshetra war, Krishna told, when Arjun was thinking accomplished, कि बहुत अच्छा युद्ध किया. So he said, let us ask. There were two people who were witnesses. One was Bhim. So he said, let us ask Hanuman. So Hanuman, he asked, what did you see? So Hanuman said that I saw that Arjuna was shooting arrows, but they were not shot properly, and I would see that you were aligning it properly. So all those arrows, which the entire victory, which was all because he said that I literally saw you putting the arrows in place where they were going wrong. So Arjun really realized that, means Krishna just corrected even the sense of false ego which could have come, that finally I understood your Gita Vyakhyan and I delivered. The project successful launched. So he said, no, there were subtle energies. Interesting thing is, Hanuman says, but Krishna, your form as Ram is more sweeter. I came to see only because my Ram has come here to act as Krishna. I did not come to see like Krishna is acting as Ram. So technically it's one and the same, but the bhav takes over. Why? Because Hanuman had personal interaction with Ram only, that form. So he said, I find that form much more attractive and much more sweeter. You as Krishna is very disturbing and confusing. Means I just cannot fit into the template of what I am. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita or many other places, Prabhupada gives beautiful purports to the same thing, which contradicts to the section of the purport which is being spoken here. The purpose of me highlighting this aspect is so that when we hear these things, we have to understand that these kind of statements are driven by bhava, not by an external superimposition of an idea. So if Gopi will read this verse, she'll say, I already know, it's obvious. Right? She will say, this is waste of time. What is you need to tell people to love Krishna. So such people are not qualified into कि जिसको समझाना पड़ता है कि क्या सही और क्या गलत, मतलब ऐसे मूर्ख लोग के साथ मेरा कोई संबंध नहीं है. If somebody does not have common sense, I don't want to talk. Not that gopis say like that, I am just saying. That's how it works. If you have to tell, let's say you have to tell Madhav, you should love your brother, you should love your mother. So it's a very big problem. This is something which you don't need to tell that. Correct? Isn't it Madhav? Madhav will also feel that my daddy is he's gone crazy or what. Is this something to give instruction? It's obvious, right? I love my mother. Right? So that way. So somebody at that level, this verse will probably not make sense. But for Arjun, this position is being given because of the template. There was a clash of template of consciousness. And that's why this verse has to be emphasized to him. That culmination will happen here. And then he progresses. When we take these verses in a very ritualistic sense, we will create divisions, disruptions, disturbances in relationships. By taking the name of Ram and Krishna also.
Yeah.
You are greater devotee, you are lesser devotee, you are Vishnu devotee, but this is Shyam Sundar. So if you want to ever understand any of these kind of verses, you should read Ramanand Ray's discussion with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That will permanently clear all your doubts ever on the concept of bhav and tattva, how they walk together. So when we read this verse, it obviously understands Prabhupada's mood also. Like gopis, when they met Narayan in the Ras Leela, what did they say? In the Ras Leela, when Krishna disappeared, the gopis started searching. And then Narayan appeared. And they said, they did namaskar, oh, Narayan came. But okay, did you see Krishna? No? Okay, thank you. So means their connection with Narayan was only if they found Krishna. Otherwise, okay, we saw you, okay, Hari Bol. Otherwise, I am not concerned with you right now. So, now one cannot take that position that way. That yes, this is ultimate devotion. So from tomorrow, no more Narayan. All Krishna. Your love for Krishna does not manifest because you artificially impose these kind of things. And therefore, these kind of verses are more saturated or understood, assimilated in our life when we understand the other parts properly and follow the other discussion properly, which begins in the Bhagavad Gita. So thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments? Lot of questions. Can you switch on the fan a little bit? Huh. Fine. Yes, Prabhuji.
As you mentioned, first of all, thank you so very much, Prabhuji. I read the verse so many times, but I never had in this mood. According to Prabhupada, here itself he mentioned we should focus on the Tribhanga form of Krishna, which is ultimate, the Madhurya, right? But as you mentioned, Lord Panma, he will be always in the mood of Ram, the Dasya. But it doesn't matter, right? Because ultimately you mentioned it doesn't matter. It will be revealed to you.
According to Prabhupada also, and all our acharyas, they also say it doesn't really matter.
But ultimately Madhurya, right? Madhurya will have everything. That's what they
So,
mentioned.
how does it not matter? That's what I said, that these kind of verses, some sections of Bhagavad Gita verses come at the level of bhav. See, when Krishna is saying, Priyosi mein, I love you so much. When you love someone and you say something that is going to go in the message does not have just a logical message, but there is also the mood of love, right? Or what we call bhava. You get it? So wherever he's saying that pratijani tato vakshami te hitam, I am speaking for your benefit, I love you, priyosi mein. So when some punchline verses come, that means Krishna is speaking something obviously from a heart.
I think I need to meditate more, Prabhu.
So that aspect has to be understood more of that bhava aspect.
Yeah. So you mentioned bhava and tattva should be
It should be reconciled.
reconciled.
Yeah. So if there is bhav without tattva, it will become sentimentalism. Prabhupada used to say, right, philosophy without sentiment is
Philosophy without behavior is
not behavior.
Religion.
Devotion. Philosophy and religion.
Yeah, philosophy without religion.
Chalo, it is khichdi.
Out of our conflict.
Something is there, but yeah, basically philosophy and the bhav both have to be reconciled properly. If bhav walks on its own path, it can just become a sentimental journey. There is difference between sentiment and sentimental. And if there is philosophy which is not with bhav, then it can become just a dry speculation.
Yeah.
And speculation does not always mean wrong. It's a speculation. Speculation means with that which originates from the mind following a certain kind of a structure. It may not be always wrong, but it's still dry. What is the purpose of understanding the whole truth if you cannot reciprocate with it properly? Correct? Like that.
Yes.
Like for example, you are working in Google or something, but when you meet the boss of Google, you'll feel, a very different rasa is there, na?
Yeah.
Working in Google and meeting the owner of Google and sitting and with him on the table, it's a total different rasa. And when these two combine, it's a whole new experience. So it's something like that.
Yeah, bro. Why I am asking is, you mentioned at the end, gopis are in the Madhurya rasa or Madhurya bhav. At that time, when Lord Narayan appears, so that means they come back to on reverence. But when they are in Madhurya bhav, they didn't think Krishna is supreme personality, right? He's a conjugal lover for him.
Yeah.
So there is a difference, no, Prabhu. So that means what I am trying to say is Madhurya, as according to Prabhupada also, Madhurya will have all the rasas, if I am not wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Madhurya already includes, Madhurya is something which is actually not just Madhurya. The concept of rasa itself. Rasa has all philosophical structures by default.
Yes.
The Shata Darshan, which we discussed in the beginning. All those things, all knowledge of Vedanta, everything ends with Siddhanta. When the level of purification happens, then the inconceivable avyakta with tattva, those things start. That which is incomprehensible with the mind and senses.
Oh, mind and senses.
The
Yes,
journey
beyond
mind, senses and intelligence starts at the level of bhav.
that. Bhav. Yes, the ultimate one. Yeah.
So bhav cannot be understood with intelligence like we are trying to do.
Yes, yes.
So we are only trying to reach to that stage and trying to say that beyond this stage, we are superimposing our intelligence on a higher thing which is inconceivable. But
Beyond.
trying to make, for example, in quantum physics, we hear the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
How do you
Beyond our imagination. That
But
means.
still we have said that if there is second and third dimension, there can be fourth, right? Mathematically it's possible. Fifth dimension is possible. At least I think that there is a possibility of constructing the fourth dimension. But how do you construct the fifth dimension? It's very difficult.
That means our consciousness should elevate to that stage, then only we can understand. Until then, we need to meditate on
Until
Krishna.
then, do anartha nivritti.
Yeah.
But if you feel that life ends here, then that's why these things come.
Yeah.
No. Beyond this, it's a totally different level where life. then everything else will become useless. It's a total different way of how this world operates. Fascinatingly, in this last 6 months after the launch of the James Webb telescope, the newer telescope, I have been following up a lot of discoveries and the restructuring of the physics and mathematics which is happening now after observing. It is so interesting that they are now saying that at quantum level, all physical laws don't follow the properties. That simply means that whatever we see in this world, we are doing new inventions and discoveries based on certain formulas, right?
Formulas.
All these formulas are wrong. How can they be wrong? Because you are seeing something actually happening. So, but they are wrong beyond a certain level, when you go at a quantum level. But then all these things were discovered at this stage, which were all right, but then how come this suddenly becomes wrong at that level?
Because it's relative, but whatever we are seeing, it's absolute maybe.
Yeah, means I am talking only from physics.
Physics, yeah.
So this is baffling to modern scientists itself that, so now they have said that there is a possibility of reality, that it can be constructed in multiple ways. For example, we have the formula of physics and maths observing the universe. There could be someone who constructs new sets of equations saying that the whole world can run also with this equation.
Yeah.
And it can run perfectly well. Like eating a total different style of sambar.
Different template.
Different template. It is fully possible that there could be physics with total different formulas.
Metaverse.
Whatever. This is something.
But outcome maybe, yeah.
Bhagavatam speaks about universes with different laws and dimensions, and it appears very emotional thing. But when at least the physics people say this, you can understand that. It's a mind-boggling truth which people have realized, and now they are thinking that how to explain these things in school books, because as children will grow, they will find that everything we studied was bogus. So this is complicated, right?
Yeah.
The idea of the solar system is in doubt now. Very big, significant discoveries. The understanding of sun, the understanding of galaxies, James Webb telescope has redefined so many things. So what had been discovered by 1940s by Einstein and Tesla and other things, they understand that those people were speaking something abstract which nobody understood. They are now understanding, oh, this is what they were saying. But now that remains to be discovered. So the point is, at the level of bhav, it is something like exploring a dimension which is beyond our intellectual and mental capacity to understand.
Agreed.
That's it. We can do till nishtha ruchi. When we use bhav and prem.
First of all, anardhanivritti itself, it's...
Yeah, it comes from grace only.
Grace.
So that level of understanding, when scientists also have, they don't just have by just like taking telescopes and observing. These people, they eat, they drink, they breathe all these theories 24/7. There is man mana, what we said, Krishna is being absorbed.
Yes.
Like this, they are absorbed in the universe, and that's where the universe then speaks. So absorption is very important.
Yes, Prabhu. That also Krishna told, yada prapaccha.
Yeah, so for us as sadhakas, when we are reading Gita, why should we right now be confused of what form to think and all?
Yes.
Okay. Krishna is saying, take it as a template. Let us follow. If then Krishna decides at some point of time, oh, I know your bhav will suit most to the Ram style. You won't be able to handle me as Krishna. So I will appear like that.
Yeah.
And you will fall in love with me that way.
Wonderful.
So this verse will also mean that only. If Hanuman reads this verse, he says, this is what actually Krishna is saying. He may say, hey Prabhupada, this is not what he's saying. Krishna means the Ram. Correct? It's a different template.
Yeah.
And it's a true template.
For him.
Yeah, like Narsingh Dev has his own universe.
Yeah.
Vaikunt Loka, every form,
Yes.
all the 16 Keshvai Nama, Madhavai Nama, we do this tilak at 16 places, all they're all in their own universes. Own Vaikuntha Lokas.
Wonderful.
When you read about Bhagavatam and how the universe is constructed, then you read about Ayodhya, Mathura and Goloka as the central whirl of the lotus, and then there is Mahesh Dham, Devi Dham, this, that, and like construction. If you read Ramayan's construction of how the spiritual world is, the central place is Saket
Saket.
or Ayodhya.
Yeah.
And then at periphery, outskirts, there is Golok and this. So when you see it as a circle, you can begin, anything can be a center in a circle, in a sphere. Everything is at the center. It's how you take it. So, but these things are baffling for common mind.
Yeah.
So Mahaprabhu, that's why I said, if you get time, read the Ramanand Samvad. Mahaprabhu in the beginning only says, one cannot differentiate between these rasas. But just for the sake of technical classification, we'll discuss. The intensity of the mood which is expressed is seen more vibrant in the Madhurya than in Shantaras.
Yes.
The expression of that love is seen more intensely in Madhurya. That is why it is highest. But for somebody who is not in Madhurya does not feel any lesser.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you.
So there is a question online
Yeah.
by Baldamari Prabhu. I think I'll send the request.
Wanting to pay taxes and all that things. Prabhuji, my question is this. Prabhuji mentioned that the first point is man mana and then become man bhakta. And he took the example that even if you stay in this country, your mind is not enough to the country, you can still continue to pay taxes and all that things. So my question, Prabhu, is that I am a practitioner and I am trying to practice Vaidhi Bhakti, in which I did not start with any love for Krishna. My mind is not fixed on Krishna. I am doing the practice with whatever little faith I have. Is this even Bhakti Prabhu in that case? Because my mind is still not fixed on Krishna. Forget fixed. It is just wandering around that and just doing the practice. So is it even Bhakti in case, Prabhuji?
So in this verse, Manmana Bhava, after that is another verse which is beautiful. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharan vaja, and then ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhagesh avidhyasati bhakti mahi param kritva manavashyati asamshaya. So all these verses are just taking the gradation of the higher and higher and higher. After this, the most interesting verse comes is text number 73. When Krishna stops speaking, Arjun says, Nashto moho smrutir labdhva tvat prasadena achyutah sthitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachetam. Very important thing. So, see, actually, if somebody says just speak on this verse, then it cannot do justice, because the verse is spoken in continuation of something and culminates something. So we have to understand this. Text 73 is the significant point of what is happening to Arjuna. Nashto moha. Moha is now gone. What was the moha?
That everything is
Family attachment to the family.
My template was the moha. I agreed to your template. That is what, only the template has changed. He does not suddenly feel that these are not my people. He understands. They are still my guru. They are still my. Huh?
It aligned with Krishna's.
Yeah, Krishna does not say don't see them as guru, don't see them as these, now see them as enemies. That was not Krishna's message. Certainly your idea is right, but expand your idea a little bit more where my idea also fits. Because your idea cannot take over my idea. Not because I am God, because your vision is limited. So, nashto moho smrutir labdhva tvat prasadena, by your prasad. So, this also means that we at a conditional stage, we may not be able to completely understand and love, but we can expect tvat prasada, that this kind of prasad can appear, can be begotten by us also. In Arjun's case, this prasad was directly received by Krishna. In our case, we received the prasad through the Bhagavad Gita, through this understanding. But this means, just as Arjun's moha got nashed, our moha can also get nashed by putting our brain and reading. Even though, if my heart is not fully absorbed in Krishna. So the second line is much more interesting. Sthitosmi gata sandeha. I am now sthita. Now I am firmly fixed. Because earlier what was his state? I want to fight but I am confused. Correct? It's a significant thing. What was that verse? I will not fight. What is that verse?
Chapter 1.
Karpanya dosho pada swava pruchhami tvam dharma sambhud cheta yasyan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham maha. Karpanya dosh has come. And now he's saying, now I am a sthita gata sandeha. There is no more sandeha. What a line this word fills. Our entire life is filled with sandeha. And I will do what you say. So what was that? Having said this, Arjun began the war. So he started doing the duty only. So even if, let us not worry about our hearts and minds being fully absorbed in Krishna with love at this point, start doing Karishye Vachanam Tava and do the reverse process. Eventually, purifying our mind and senses, the other part will come in place. So in Arjuna's case, he is almost like, he's a pure devotee who got a little bit confused because of so many situations. So there was a little bit correction which had to be taken place. In our case, there is correction at so many levels. It's a messed up condition, right? So by the time we put all these things in place, it will take some time. So not to worry so much of man mana. At least we start with Madhyaji, Mam Namaskuru. What these small things which they are small, but they are not too small. But these little things which Prabhupada said, wake up in the morning, do your rounds properly, attentively, as much as possible. Eat, offer bhoga, do arti, do it regularly, daily. And then whenever you read Shastra, see, the purpose of Shastra is different from Samhita. Purpose of this kind of Gita, Upanishad, Mahabharata, Ramayana and Bhagavad is different from Samhita. Samhitas are like prayers. Ashtaks, Vishnu Sahasranam. You can read, chant. Gita is not just meant for chanting. It's meant for critical understanding. Bhagavad is meant for that. Dissecting every single character. Like when we were doing in our 12th standard biology, we had to dissect rats and cockroach and all those things. If your dissection was wrong, then that was also a big problem. It would mess around big time. It would create a mess in that experiment. What Vyas is doing, he is dissecting every character's life. And this dissection is done critically, brutally, but aesthetically correct. Not like just chopping off every person's and analyzing, not like that. It is analyzed very meticulously. strengths, weaknesses, shortcomings, their charity, their sadhana, everything is analyzed. That is the purpose of Shastra. So whenever we are reading Shastra, don't take it like an emotional journey. For that, we have prayers to do that. Not this kind of thing. So man mana, if we are not fully aligned to that, don't worry, do your duties nicely. Eventually you will come to that point. Of that there is no doubt. So you can also refer to that 10.29.10.31, 29.31, whatever that verse where Krishna says to gopis, don't worry, even if you cannot see me in person, keep doing your duties and sadhana, eventually you will meet me.
So, I was thinking this verse 18.65 Krishna also speaks the same verse in 934, exactly same verse. But meaning is same. It's just Sanskrit vocabulary of words. But exactly
9.34, no?
Yeah, 34. Exactly same, but little vocabulary of the words. But my question is, one way we understand this is that Krishna repeating it has more importance. So that is one of the analytical study of the verse. But when we internalize it, so Krishna has told this, saying, oh, this is the most confidential chapter. 9th chapter is the most confidential knowledge, and he says exactly same verse. And then he goes through so much of analytical...
Brahma Jyoti and all of that.
Yeah, so he goes through like absolute, about the absolute, about the nature, about this, that, and again he comes back. And 1863, he says that now, yat ichhasi tat kuru, you do whatever you want.
Yeah, again.
But, again. But exactly after that, he says, but you are my friend, very dear friend. I am going to tell you again the confidential knowledge. So he repeats the confidential knowledge again. So my question is that after all this done, so if we understand, yes, this is the confidential knowledge, and then some of these devotees are influenced by that, and then they are very much now devoted to Krishna. Their realizations comes to us through, their realizations, most of the relation comes through us, from them to us as songs. Like, these are the Vaishnava songs, these are the Gopi songs, and you now understand their feelings now. So my question is that when it comes to us, this is a feeling that came from them. And they prayed to that, and they became,
It is their realization.
Their realization. Then how do we realize that?
Excellent. I like your questions. I love your questions. And good that you are able to study and in this way identify this dichotomy. It's good. So I forgot your question. Repeat just the last part.
Realization.
So it is their realization. This is exactly what it is. When we are chanting all these verses and praying, let's say we are chanting Brahma Samhita, it is Brahma's realization. It is Gajendra's realization. It's Kunti's realization. Just because I have by-hearted and I can launch those verses through my memory and tongue in a masterful way does not mean I have embodied those characteristics. In fact, it is impossible by just doing that you embody those characteristics. But yes, that part is true, that we are praying sincerely that, my dear Lord, when can I appreciate such kind of mood? When can I do this? So this is the only reason why all this Shastra is discussed. Otherwise, Krishna would have given 6 ashtaks, that these are pure devotees, these are ashtak, repeat. This is process. Why was this analysis? Why is the analytical or analysis in scriptures essential? This is the Pancharatrika Vidhi. These are the deities. This is the process of doing puja. Read this ashtak. Complete. Why is the need of analysis? The need of analysis is only because these people have struggled through all their lives and they have had their own Kurukshetras in their own unique way, and they had to find their own methods of perfection. See, Prabhu, it is not possible that we will just copy somebody else's method of how they have perfected life and we will perfect our life. It is not going to happen with anybody. If that was true, then only one example was more than enough for all of us. The problem is there are 18 Puranas, hundreds of stories of so many characters and Upanishads with another hundreds of people. And one day when you become perfect, some other Acharya will tell in, let's say, 5022, that in 2022 there used to be a devotee in a Krauncha Dvipa called, he was in
Kranchadvipe Ramanaga Varshe Aindrika Khande.
Yeah. Prosper Grame. A devotee called Daujin Itai, disciple of so and so, following a Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, he did this and he perfected his life. Possible. Such kind of stories anybody can, like that is what Vyasdeva has done. He is bringing stories from Satyuga. Because he has compiled, Vyasdeva is called as the compiler of Vedic literature. Compile means these stories were already there. He has not created new stories, he has compiled from various places, correct? So he's brought it. We have to see that, okay, as a king, as this. So in our life, some few years we are like a pauper. We have lot of stress, so many responsibilities, and then we also succeed. When we succeed, then we will not be able to. If you read Sridhar Kolavecha's pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will feel, yeah, I cannot follow this mood. You cannot relate. But when you were, suppose you are very poor, hand-to-mouth situation, and you read Sridhar Kolavecha, you will feel. So then your life moved from Sridhar Kolavecha, and now you are like Ramanand Rai. With wealth and resources, Ramanand as a governor, I am saying. So suddenly now you will feel, Ramanand Rai, you should, suppose you have $2 million, you will say, oh, he was so devoted. In his house they built a beautiful temple of the Lord, and he would distribute, he would feed prasad to so many. Suddenly you will relate to that pastime, not when you were pauper. So in our entire life we go through situations like Kunti, like Dhritarashtra. Someday you will mess, you will take perfect life like Bhishma, and then suddenly you will come into a dharma sankat. Then you will realize Bhishma's prayers. So the point is, through all these characters and studying this, we will be able to figure out what we need to pick, and we will be able to compile our journey from extracting so many things.
So these are all example templates?
Yeah, these are just templates. There is no fixed template. Bhishma perfected this way, this person this way, Ajamili perfected Bilva Mangal Thakur this way. Very complex, no? Bilva Mangal Thakur's perfection, it directly blows the entire Bhagavad thing also. Jagai Madai perfected how? That defeats the whole Gita and Bhagavad also. So, but then when we see all this and then we try to figure out, aisa. So then you take 1% of Bhishma, 5% of Kunti, these, and then you will have some template. After that, you will have a unique aspect which you have to contribute. And when you make that, which is so exclusive to you, that's where Krishna will reveal his special Leela for you form. That's the end of material existence.
It could be an existing one or it could be a new one.
It could be anything.
It's your own unique template.
It is your template. And then that becomes the book for somebody else.
Then we'll copy.
It always works like that. So meanwhile we follow the sadhana template of our acharyas which they have said.
Yeah.
The experiential templates will be fine. I am not saying that we construct. So the sadhana templates are that's given, like Kali Yuga, Harinam, do this. That's
Okay.
so once
Those are fixed.
you keep going higher and higher, you may get different kind of rasa. To maybe chant something else also more, to do something more, or technically you are doing something less, but it's very intense in emotion, like that.
mentioned Jagamadai and even the Sanatana Goswami group also, they were in totally different path altogether. And they came in association with the pure devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and their life changed. Why did the grace, for them to receive that grace, why they had to wait that long? Why they didn't? What is it that the incident have to happen at that time? Why not before?
Who, Jagai Madai or?
In anybody's case, like before he could shower the grace, why he did let them to go down so low to shower his grace?
Yeah, so this we can yesterday I was discussing this point. I think you were there yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this point that when we talk about pastimes like Putana, it is specifically shown that suppose by some chance we fall to such a level, then also if somehow we, with a pure intention, we take the holy name, there is always a potential chance.
To demonstrate that.
It was not, because if we directly analyze, then all these leelas become very confusing. We will feel unfair. Ki, bhai, I have not done like Jagai Madai, still why I am suffering. Give me Krishna Prema. So it is to give the hope that way. It is possible. And also to break the ego of a logical mind who thinks that simply by sadhana and all I will achieve the highest truths. So therefore, even somebody who is living a pure life and doing everything, there is one corner or one element that ultimately
it is a grace.
That grace has to happen.
Correct.
So that we don't lose sight of that. Otherwise we can become proud, right? Like that thing of Arjun or Hanuman had to say. That thing can happen. But one thing is that why it is not recommended to live demoniac life is because living that life is very torturous. A sadhak's life, even when the ultimate experience of God has not happened, it is very fulfilling. So, even as sadhana, with all the struggle, I have seen devotees sometimes, they feel that, oh, now I cannot, I don't want to chant rounds. Anyways, it is not happening attentively. So sometimes they give up. I actually tell them, even if you cannot chant attentively, don't stop chanting. Because we have distinctly seen people who chant, even if inattentively, they have a certain energy, aura and positivity despite all the chaos and all the tensions. But when one leaves sadhana, his peace is a depressing kind of a peace. You can see it on the face, that glow just disappears. Means it's just better to be a struggling devotee than to be a comfortable materialist. That energy is totally different. So because our struggles are not mundane, right? We are struggling to fight the mind. So it's natural to fail, not to be disappointed. That's why Jagai Madai is a very hopeful, hope-giving pastime, and it's specifically Kali Yuga, that whatever logical things I have spoken, honestly it won't work that way. Because socio-political situations are so complex, it's a struggle to align many things. But at least as much as you can align, you do that. %60-70% of the things that we can align. Yes. So if you get confused because of some of my words or try to probably hear the lecture again, try to restructure these things again. It may appear, because many of us, we tend to take this whole information so ritualistically that sometimes it appears different. But this is what Krishna is doing, right? Daujinita, your point which you were saying, that Krishna says like this, then Arjun says, then a different purport comes. Again and again it's coming. What is happening? It's a fine tuning of an idea. And it's an exercise, it's a difficult exercise to fine tune. If we just try to oversimplify a difficult exercise, you will lose the spirit of exercise itself. That should not happen.
I was in the same context. I was listening the lectures, and Srila Prabhupada was Srila Prabhupada, the reporter asks, you are teaching this this Mahamantra to everyone here in America. So what is the purpose? Why? And you are chanting also loudly. So Prabhupada says that it is called tuning. So it's like radio tuning. So you tune the perfect station and then you hear very properly. So it's just we are tuning by loudly chanting. We are tuning to the realm of Krishna. So that Krishna can be connected to us. I mean, I was just when saying, I was thinking that tuning is.
See, once our philosophical structure and that structure is set well, life will become easy. Practice also becomes easy because you can identify your weak spots, hot spots very easily. Then, otherwise, it can become a khichdi. That's why I said the dissection has to be very meticulous.
Our temple president, Jagannath Prabhu, was saying just like what you were saying before. You were saying that just like the Bhagavatam has the stories of these great devotees, I can foresee and guarantee you that many years down the line, ISKCON story will be in Bhagavatam, in the next Bhagavatam, in the next Sutta.
Yeah, possible.
Yeah.
Potentially anybody's story is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Srila Prabhupada's.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada will be.
Yeah, thousands of years, anybody's story. That's why I said it's possible. But remember, the point of experience is when your unique contribution will happen, which is not paralleled by anybody else. Krishna says he wants to enjoy one unique flavor from each one of us, right? Which is not by anybody. So that is our point of personal experience and personal connect, which will make us so fixed that we will never leave that path. So it will happen. So keeping that hope. And it is so sweet just to know that, right? It makes us feel so special that we are not just following blindly all these templates. And then these devotees will also have something nice to hear. Because yours will be, anybody's will be a unique template, right? So the earlier devotees say, okay, how did you come? That's a inspiring story for them also. But how did you come? I exactly followed what you did. Oh, okay, so there's nothing to discuss. Correct?
Yeah.
Chalo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.